Strap in, buckle up, and get ready to lay it on the line. This is Not Speeding, Just Qualifying, a podcast that's just as fast as it sounds. What's good, family? David here. Welcome to episode number 3 of the No Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast. Hope you guys are enjoying your week so far. Before I get started, huge thanks to everybody who has checked out the content, took a listen. Please know I appreciate it so much. And if you like it, please share with your family and friends. Hey, I'm not trying to make racing fans out of everybody. Again, I'm just out here to have a little fun, and I appreciate you guys allowing me to come in and brighten your days a little bit, hopefully. Today, we're going to continue our theme. As you know, it is Rolex 24 race week down in Daytona. I'm heading down tomorrow, boots on the ground for the next 4 days. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be cold, unfortunately, but we're looking forward to it. Yesterday, on the show, I had President John Doonan. I interviewed him during the Roar. I got another special guest today. I'll get to that particular guest a little bit later on. But I want to take this time to tell you guys about the true stars of sports car racing, and they are the cars themselves. And I want to introduce you guys to the 4 classes of the IMSA Weathertech Sportscar Championship that will be competing at Daytona this weekend and all throughout the season. So we're going to go from back to front, slowest to fastest, but we have 4 classes involved. The first class is known as GTD, which is Grand Touring Daytona. Named that way because initially when the championship was conceived in 2014, there was 2 different regulations of GT machinery at the time. There was GT Le Mans, which for sports car fans that are familiar with the terminology was the old GTE, GT2 level regulations, but that has since gone away. GT Daytona was for the smaller regulations. Since 2016, GTD has used GT3 FIA spec machines, and it has been one of the most popular, if not the most popular class in IMSA WeatherTech racing, and for good reason. With the decline of interest in GT Le Mans in 2021, IMSA decided to flip strategy and decided to make a second GTD class for IMSA starting in 2022. So let's go over both of our GT classes real quick now that we've kind of given you the full story in the background of it. First, let's take a look at GTD. And you're wondering, David, what's the difference between just regular GTD and GTD Pro? GTD basically requires a gentleman driver or an amateur, if you will. Basically, there is a driver rating system, and driver rating systems go from platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. Bronze is basically the lowest level you can go. That's basically gentleman drivers, amateur drivers, etc. And then you kind of build your way on up. So in GTD, regular GTD, the cars have green numbers and they have to have at least one bronze or silver rated driver in their lineup. They can have a professional driver, but they have to have an amateur in there. Which brings us to the simplest explanation of GTD Pro, which is the second GTD class. Basically, no holds bar. This is an all professional class. Basically, everyone's a professional, a hired gun, and you can actually have factory efforts in GTD Pro. However, both GTD and GTD Pro go off the same rule set technically, which is FIA GT3 spec vehicles. And there is no shortage of manufacturers that have GT3 machinery in IMSA present. We're talking Lexus, Porsche, Lamborghini, Aston Martin, Ford, Corvette, Ferrari, BMW, and Mercedes. And more than likely, you will find each of these manufacturers have at least one intercar in both with a fully professional lineup and a Pro-Am lineup. So that's why GTD is so much fun, because honestly, if the right driver's in the right car, GTD with their green can mix it up. And oh, by the way, GTD Pro cars will have the red number background on their cars, and also the red insignias on the windshields. Same for GTD, just like the numbers, their windshield details and their wing details will all be green. So now we've taken care of the Grand Touring, the GT cars. Those are the cars that look like what you see on the road every day. The Porsche 911s, the Lamborghini Huracans, the Aston Martins, the Ford Mustangs, the Corvettes, the Ferrari 296s, the BMW M4s, the Mercedes AMGs. You'll see those cars on the street every day. These next two classes, you will not. These are strictly race specials. These are prototypes. I'll kick it off with Le Mans Prototype 2. Le Mans Prototype 2 is essentially Pro-Am racing for prototypes. Gentlemen drivers who want to go a little bit faster, but not quite at the level of the big multi-million-dollar professional teams. LMP2 is also a great proving ground for younger drivers who are still trying to garner their experience. So a little bit about the technical side of Le Mans Prototype 2. Le Mans Prototype 2 is a spec engine category. There's a British manufacturer by the name of Gibson Engines. They produce engines for every LMP2 car, not just in IMSA, but in other series around the world that use the platforms such as the Asian and European Le Mans series. To compete in the class along with the spec engine, teams can choose one of 4 chassis built to the latest spec regulations of LMP2. Those chassis are Ligier, Riley Multimatic, Dallara, and the most popular, successful car built to these current regulations of LMP2, which is Orica. These cars are the second fastest in the championship. They can reach speeds of up to 190 miles an hour at tracks like Daytona and Le Mans. And just like GTD, you do have to have at least one bronze or silver rated driver. The other driver can be a professional in the lineup. Now we're moving to the creme de la creme, the top class. This is the all professional, all factory. This is what everyone comes to see. Grand Touring Prototype GTP. GTP was birthed out of a combination of IMSA and the Automobile Club de l'Ouest, which organizes the World Endurance Championship and the 24 Hours of Le Mans. This was a convergence solution to have both the Le Mans Daytona hybrid regulations and the Le Mans hypercar regulations, which is ACO's top regulation category for the World Endurance Championship, to bring the two together, and we can have one common top class prototype platform racing around the world. So far, as we are starting year 3 of the convergence formula, we have yet to see crossover where we've seen a hypercar, or a car built to hypercar regulations, I should say, compete in IMSA at the Rolex 24. That will change this year, however, as Aston Martin will enter their Valkyrie Le Mans Hypercar in the IMSA WeatherTech Sportscar Championship. They will start the season at the Sebring 12 hours. They will enter one car, and that car will be ran by the Heart of Racing team, which has been an Aston Martin stalwart. If you've been paying attention to the IMSA championships in recent years, they have been running Aston Martins in the GTD Pro and GTD categories. So now the team is making the big step up to GTP this year. As for this weekend's Rolex 24 at Daytona, there will be 5 manufacturers fighting it out for top honors. Now let's take a look at each of those manufacturers and the teams that will be racing their respective vehicles. We'll start off with the defending champions of the Rolex 24 and the IMSA WeatherTech Sportscar Championship, and that is Porsche, with their immaculate Porsche 963. There'll be 4 of them running in the race this year. There'll be 2 privateer entered cars. The first one will be from the German Proton competition team. The second will be from the American JDC Miller Motorsports. And then there will be 2 factory entered cars entered by none other than the captain Roger Penske and Porsche Penske Motorsport. The second manufacturer that we'll discuss in the GTP category is BMW, and they also have a Rolex legend leading their effort. BMW's cars are ran by Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, and yes, that is David Letterman, former longtime late night talk show host, and Bobby Rahal, former IndyCar champion, Indianapolis 500 champion, and a former winner of the Rolex 24 all the way back in 1981. Moving over to Cadillac, and this is a fan favorite just because of the sound of the car alone. The V8 engine in the back of that Cadillac is absolutely electric and really gets fans up off their seat every time it goes around. So you can imagine 700 plus laps of that thunderous V8 pounding the Daytona pavement over the 24 hours is definitely going to be an absolute fan favorite. There'll be 3 of those thunderous Cadillacs in Saturday's Rolex 24 at Daytona. The first is entered by Action Express Racing, which you also may know as Wheelin' Cadillac Racing. They're a team that has been to the top of the mountain in IMSA before. They have won this race before, and the goal is very clear. They intend to do it again this year. Back in the Cadillac fold after 4 years away is Wayne Taylor Racing, back with not 1 but 2 Cadillacs this year after they had a 2-car Acura effort in 2024. They've reunited with General Motors, and they have a very stacked lineup of drivers as they look to bring Cadillac back to the top in the 24 hours. It'll be our first in the GTP era if they do. After Cadillac, Lamborghini is next up on our list, as Lamborghini will only have just the one Lamborghini SC63 is going to be ran by Riley Technologies, and they have a very crack team of factory drivers. Lamborghini is going to run just the Michelin Endurance Cup races this year, and while this is the first Rolex 24 for the Lamborghini, only its second ever 24-hour, far behind the rest of their GTP brethren, make no mistake, the Lamborghini did show some speed at the Roar, and they could throw a potential surprise in the works if everything falls their way. Which brings us to the 5th and final manufacturer that will play a piece in this year's Rolex 24, and that is Acura. Acura has been a very big player in the IMSA WeatherTech Sportscar Championship since they entered DPI back in 2018. This year, they are back with 2 cars, and they're back with a team that is no stranger to IMSA or sports car fans, and that is the team of Meyer Shank Racing. The team focused solely on IndyCar in 2024, but after a year on the IMSA sidelines, the team is back and ready to pick up right where they left off. While I was at the Roar at Daytona, I had the honor to speak with the big boss himself, Mike Shank, about his return to IMSA and just what is he looking forward to in 2025 as his team is back amongst IMSA's big dogs. Take a listen. David Lawrence here, Saturday morning, Daytona International Speedway. Roar before the 24, I have none other than multi-Rolex 24 winning car owner Mike Shank with me. Mike, I think the theme for this year is back like we never left.
We're definitely back. We're super happy to be back from this is our 21st Rolex 24, or 20th, I think, maybe 20th. I missed a year, but this is the basis of everything we do in motorsports. This stuff gave me the opportunity to win the Indy 500 actually on the IndyCar side. So eternally grateful to Jim France and what they're doing here, and happy to be back with 108 people working here over 2 cars. It's an incredible thing with Acura.
And I gotta say, and back like I never left, it really is the appropriate theme because you really got the original band back together. Colin Braun, Tom Blomqvist. You had Tom with you on the IndyCar side last year. Things didn't quite work out, but you brought him back. But you brought him back over to IMSA, and then you managed to nab 2 guns in Nick Lloyd and Ringer Van der Zand. Talk about how that quartet and just how optimistic you are for this upcoming full season.
Well, let's talk about Colin and Tom first. I mean, they would have won the championship in 23 without our problem at the beginning, and easily. And so, in my mind, they deserve another run at it. So that's what we're doing for the next couple of years. Nick and Ringer are just 2 super solid veterans that I know exactly. They know what they're doing. There's no panic. They bring all the experience from a couple other chassis, which is great to understand where we're at compared to other cars. And they're just cool. They're veterans, and that's what we needed on that car.
And you mentioned 23. I got to ask you, how hungry are you to make a statement to win this Rolex after what happened 2 years ago?
I'm ready to eat. I'm ready to eat. Hunt, kill it, and eat it.
Mike, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you. And definitely best of luck, not just next weekend, but all season long. And definitely glad to have you back in the IMSA paddock.
I appreciate everybody's support here. Thank you.
Huge thanks again to Mike Shank for taking a few moments in the paddock on Saturday to have a couple of words with me. And Mike is truly a personality, a character, not just in IMSA, but in IndyCar. And he has been a fixture in sports cars and open wheel racing for the better part of 20 plus years. So definitely happy to see Mike and Meyer Shank Racing back in the IMSA paddock for this upcoming season. It will definitely not be boring, safe to say. Well, everybody, that will conclude this episode of the Not Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast. Hope you guys have been enjoying the content this week. We still got 2 more days of pre-Rolex content coming out for you guys. Today, we took a look at the cars. Tomorrow, we're really going to go inside the helmet. We managed to talk to a couple of drivers competing this weekend, and I'm telling you, these conversations will really get you into their psyche, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. But until then, that's all from me. Just a reminder to catch me anywhere. I'm on YouTube at both DAL Motorsports and at David Lawrence. On Instagram, I'm at beloved.n.unbound. I'm also on X at DA Lawrence Jr. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn at David A. Lawrence. You can also find DAL Motorsports on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. Again, I'm David Lawrence, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Until then, you're not living life to the fullest if you're not going flat out. So long, everyone.